And then there were four. We are back from the CBB Central podcast after a 1 week extra hiatus. Unfortunately, unable to record last week. I was in London for the last week on a class trip, which was a great experience, although the college basketball scene out there, not very strong, Brad. On Thursday night, I was out with friends, and we're at like a bar pub, and it's like midnight, and so we're trying to watch the Purdue game because midnight in London is like 7:00, and they've got rugby on the TV. You couldn't watch Purdue, Tennessee, so that was very disappointing. But otherwise, it was a great trip. Missed a little bit of basketball, but we're back now, and certainly was good to be back when I did come back because a ton of awesome basketball this weekend in particular. Really heated up a tournament that was, I think a lot of people hated on it more than it needed to be, but I mean, I think it was absolutely terrific.
Yeah, I mean, I had positive memories from the first weekend. I thought it was good. I mean, I think people have an unrealistic expectation where they want, buzzer beater every game. They want these like crazy moments and they want them now. And I think we got some pretty memorable moments in the second weekend between Carson Edwards getting fouled on that 3-pointer. We had this game here. That was the Sweet 16 was Zion's crazy block that everyone was going nuts about. We had Kyle Guy exploding, Carson Edwards exploding. So I mean, there were plenty of moments.
Yeah, I mean this was as good a Sweet 16 Elite Eight, especially the Elite Eight, as I can remember. And I mean, the part of that was the chalk early, but I mean, you just think about some of the stuff that happened in the early rounds that shaped this tournament. Like look at Auburn, who was dead to rights, right? Like they are imploding against New Mexico State. AJ Harris has a layup to tie. He gives it up. Instead, goes out to the three-point shooter, I believe, Terrell Brown gets fouled. They make three free throws right there. Auburn's done, out of the tournament. Now they're going to the Final Four. And I think, why don't we just kind of start region by region and start there? Because I think that's just one of my lasting memories and just how fleeting March is. Auburn dominated the SEC tournament. They dominated early in the season, really. Like looking at their entire season's trajectory, it looked incredible to start the season, with the exception of the tight Duke loss. Just unblemished, looked like a great team. And then, early in SEC play, they're just puttering around. They get hammered by Kentucky. They lose to Ole Miss. They lost to Mississippi State. They lost to South Carolina. They lost Ole Miss twice. I mean, it didn't look good, and they kind of hovering on a bubble for a bit. Weak bubble helped them out, and then they go on a run and beat Tennessee to close the year in the SEC tournament and dominated really the SEC tournament. And then come out to March, shouldn't have beaten New Mexico State. Absolutely did not deserve to win that game. And then pretty much on a wrecking crew for 2 games on Kansas and North Carolina. And then today against Kentucky without Okiki, just fighting through and coming back. I don't think either team really played well, but that was a really fun basketball game. I don't think either team played outstanding basketball just because of especially what Harper did down the stretch. I mean, he was absurd.
Yeah, so just of Auburn's early season, right? I think that they were always better than people gave them credit for. It was just their resume didn't have anything because they lost the games that they were supposed to lose. And I mean, NC State didn't end up being as good as I thought that they would be. So that loss is a little worse. But they just kind of treaded water and didn't have anything on their resume until late. So they weren't really, popping into top 25s. And I know I saw the article from Ken Palm, I believe yesterday, kind of criticizing people and the kind of like the whole notion of the AP poll that we talk about a lot, where it's like, as long as you keep winning, no matter who it's against, you keep moving up, and no matter who you lose against, you kind of move down. And it is silly because you get to points where it's like, I still think Duke's the best team, but they just lost. I can't rank them number one. But I think just going by a formula and kind of sticking so steady to your top 25, I'm not really sure what the point is of having a weekly top 25 if it's just going to be, I think you have to incorporate some of the stuff that's happened in the season and can't just say, well, I'm going to leave this team at number 5 because I think they'll be there at the end of the year. But that was kind of the thing with Auburn is I think that they weren't. I think that they were always like a top 20-ish team. They just didn't have the resume. And now in the preseason, I thought that they would be a lot better. I thought Purifoy hasn't really found his old form. Austin Wiley certainly has not found his old form. And even McLemore is making some strong defensive plays. He hasn't found like his offensive game from last year pre-injury. But what's really helped them in the tournament is that they're just so deep, right? They have 10 guys now with the emergence of Javon McCormick. And today we'll go back to the Sweet 16 where McCormick, Dunbar, Dowdy, and Purifoy all hit shots, all shot the ball well from long range and made plays. Today, none of them made a huge impact, and it was their 2 stars, their 2 veterans, Harper and Brown, who carried the show. So I mean, that's just how important depth is, and having multiple options, multiple guys who can hit shots. Is that different games, different guys can step up, and Auburn's finally found the formula.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 2 guards like Harper and Brown who can get you anything you want at any time, I mean, it's going to be hard to stop. And I mean, especially with the inside presence they had, especially with the inside out stuff they could do with Okiki. I mean, I was just so impressed that they could win a game against an elite team when they didn't shoot the ball at a super high level, and that's what they did today against Kentucky. And, for all that it was very ISO heavy with Harper and Brown, he only had, I think, 8 assists in this game. Yeah, 8 assists. I mean, that's not a great number. I mean, no one could just stay in front of Jared Harper. I don't think I've watched a player just absolutely dominate a game with his speed the way I saw Jared Harper do today. And I think, especially given the fact that it was going up against Ashton Hagans. Now, Ashton Hagans, as good a defender he is, it's more based on his physicality than his technique or his speed. But, I mean, he just absolutely took him to town, dominated that game, and then he's got enough from everybody else. Brown hit some big shots. McLemore finished at the rim. I thought Spencer gave him 13 good minutes, even though he fouled out. I mean, I thought he gave them 13 active minutes battling down low with Montgomery, with Reed Travis, with PJ Washington. Obviously, PJ was incredible in this game. I mean, yes, Kentucky didn't shoot the ball well. Yes, Tyler Hero was quiet. I mean, but if you told Auburn that they would win a game against Kentucky without one of their top 3 most valuable players against a Kentucky team that got 28 and 13 from PJ Washington, and they only shot 7 of 23 from 3 at Auburn, you would have been very surprised for Auburn, right? I mean, I was floored that they were able to find a way to win that game without lighting up from 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think enough people kind of understood in the preseason, just how good Harper and Brown are. I mean, both guys can obviously shoot the ball from long range. They can attack off the dribble, especially Harper. I mean, when he gets the ball in a transition, he's gone, right? He gets to the rim super quick. I mean, he might be the quickest guy in the entire country with that end-to-end speed. And then the thing with Hagans is, I mean, he's shown flashes of being an incredible defender, but he's very inconsistent. Like most freshmen, I mean, especially on the defensive end, he'll have some lapses. I think he gave up backdoor, either in a crucial backdoor, whether it be last game or this game. He'll have plays like that. He'll have a ton of turnovers at times. He had 7 turnovers in this game. So he's still very much figuring it out, and that's kind of the problem with the freshman point guards is the throw is kind of flawed. Harper was able to take advantage there. And then I think, typically with a team like Auburn that like shoots a lot of threes, that's very, known for its offense. I think a lot of people kind of discount its defense, or kind of say, a team that plays a running gun style isn't going to be a good defensive team. But Auburn has a lot of, very strong individual defenders. Its guards really compete on the defensive end. And then you have guys like McLemore and Spencer who can protect the rim and are super mobile big men. I mean, Spencer had an incredible play in the Sweet 16. Incredible show of athleticism. Or I don't remember if it was a steal or a rebound, but he took off full court and then kind of showed the ball in like midair and then took it back and finished on a coast to coast layup. So just kind of showing how athletic some of these big men are for Auburn and how that's such a major advantage for them.
I mean, we could talk about this all day, but just on the Auburn front, before I think we should probably touch on Kentucky a little more. I think they're built the way a modern college basketball team should be built to succeed. Two guards who can get a bucket, who can shoot the three, wings who are athletic and can step out and space the floor like a guy like Samir Doty who can hit a 40% from three. Athletic, mobile bigs who can switch, who can protect the rim is really all you need, right? They have shooters, they have athletes, they have rim protectors, they have switchability. I mean, that's how you build in this modern climate. And I know some people kind of took this too far and were like, oh, this is an indictment on, the old school coaches like Calipari and Izzo who, play two bigs. But and because I was like, excuse me, PJ Washington was absurd. Like that's not the reason they lost by playing PJ and Reed together. But I kind of think that if you're anyone but a blue blood that can get any kid they want, you should just absolutely build the way Auburn has.
Well, it's tough because Auburn, has absolutely gotten their fair share of talent. Okeke was a top 50 recruit. Wiley was like a top 20 recruit. Pure Four was very highly ranked. Harper was top 100. Bryce Brown was like an under the radar guy who really exploded in his junior year. But they have some serious recruits on this team, and it was really because we see it a lot where a team signs like a 3-star player, and the fan base in that player's defense will bring up like we see with I'll use Providence for an example, but you could easily pick any team. Sign a 3-star recruit. You have fans saying, "Oh, 3-star recruit, that's not good enough." And then another fan will chime in, "Well, what about Bryce Cotton? What about LaDontae Hinton?" And they immediately bring up the exceptions, like the 3-star recruits who drastically outperformed their ranking. And if you're going to have a team in a season like Auburn had this year, you need multiple guys, like a Bryce Brown, who was not recruited very heavily, same like a Macklemore, and provide a major impact and really outperform. You get a couple of those guys combined with these super talented guys like your Harper and your Okeke, and then that's kind of what makes your big boom here if you're Auburn.
Yeah, no, I'll buy that. And I wasn't saying Auburn only recruits is recruiting these underrated kids or running a system that's far superior. But I think the point is obviously if you're Duke, you can't turn away Zion, Cam, RJ, and if you're Kentucky, it's hard to turn down an a EJ Montgomery, for instance, a top 15 recruit. If you can get them, you have to take them. But it's also do you start to consider taking a top 75 guard rather than just grabbing another forward who can't stretch?
Duke is trying to do that, but then they can't follow through with it, right? Where they
can't maintain depth.
Yeah, they'll take their Alex O'Connell and their Joey Baker and then just not give them any minutes, and those guys transfer. You go back, Semi Ojeleye, Alex Murphy, Mike Benajay, Jordan Tucker. So they're trying to do that, but then I'm sure Coach K sees them at practice. And it's oh, these guys are gross, right? And then
are they trying to do that, or do they miss on the kids they actually want and then do that? Kevin Knox, for instance, was who they wanted, so they take Jordan Tucker. And I'm not saying I'm not even saying you need to develop 3 and 4 year guys. I'm just saying you should have more shooters and athletes and switchable guys than Reed Travis is. I don't know how impactful Reed Travis is in an elite level game in this day and age.
I think Travis has been good. I thought he was disappointing to start the year, but I think as the year went on, he if not met expectations, I think he approached expectations. I think he was a good piece for them, and I think that there are many different ways to build a successful team. I know UNC won a couple years ago with Hicks and Meeks as the big men, neither of which are very much of floor spacers out past 16 feet. So I think it can be done, but it's all about the construction, and you need your veterans. I mean, Kentucky's trying. They take a Jamal Baker and they feed him a little playing time. They did it previously with Hawkins and Willis. They have Dante Allen coming in next year, who's a top 75 recruit. But it's tough. It's tough for a top 75 guy like your Dante Allen, like your Jordan Tucker, to accept that they're going to have to sit on the bench at this school for 2, maybe even 3 years, where they could literally pick any other school in the country and at least be force fed a roll off the bench immediately.
Right, and I guess if you're let's say you're Dante Allen, and obviously he was a Kentucky guy, so it made a lot more sense. But if your choice is between Kentucky, where you might be an 8th man, 9th man in your first 2 years there, or your choice is Ole Miss, let's say, and you're going to start right away and be a potential star. I guess there's some reason you'd choose Kentucky, in terms of cachet, and everyone thinks they can beat out everybody, and Dante Allen's really good and can score. I don't want to single out Dante Allen or anything, but it's just kind of a role choice. And it seems if Kentucky recruits you, you say yes. And I mean, for the outside observer, that's always very hard to understand.
But looking at both Mike Benajay and Semi Ojeleye, guys who, with Duke and in Kentucky, and I used to throw Arizona in this too, but I think that's no longer applicable. But for those two schools specifically, those are the only two schools where I think if you're not a top 15 recruit, you should not go there unless you're a 75 to 200 that's willing to sit on the bench, because you can literally be recruited over at any point in time. You look at Marcus Bolden, right, where he struggles along. He finally gets some playing time next year. This season, and the next year they have Vernon Carey coming in, who's gonna take a huge chunk of his minutes. So you look at guys like Benajay and Ojeleye, who they could wait around. And what if you wait till your senior year and then Duke brings in R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Cam Reddish? It just doesn't make much sense where you can go literally anywhere else. You go to Kansas, right? You could go to other blue bloods like a UNC and get immediate playing time, or you could go to another blue blood and get no playing time.
Right. Yeah. I totally buy that. Once again, I think it's just a different mindset, and it's it's always gonna be hard for the rational thinkers that I think we provide in this context of we're not gonna sit here and be it makes sense for this recruit to choose this school because it's Kentucky, and if Kentucky wants you to go to Kentucky, if Kentucky says we want to recruit you, you listen, and you often just say yes, and you figure out the plan later. Because I guess my point would be we could talk about this all day, so we probably shouldn't hang on it too much longer. But if you're that top 50 recruit, the 35 to 50 range, and you're worried you're going to get recruited over. If you get recruited over, just transfer, right? If you're Duke and if you're Duke and let's take Benajay, Ojeleye, Jordan Tucker, you're going to have great options on the other side.
Right. But
so you bet on yourself.
Yeah. No one, I don't think anyone really wants to transfer, like when they pick a school, but I think the more thing that, completely backs up what you're saying is the whole Tom Crean thing from a couple months ago, where he, more or less said, we're doing poorly because I didn't run off the, guards on this team. And a lot of people are oh, this is suicide for Tom Crean. He's never going to get a recruit again. But if you're a recruit, and people don't understand how good these kids are actually at basketball compared to a Division II or a Division III player. If you're someone who has the potential to even go to a Rutgers or DePaul, you are an amazing basketball player. right? Who's like dominating at the high school level. So when you hear that, and then Georgia is recruiting you, you think like, yeah, Coach Crean is right. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to be the level of player that he needs for Georgia to be successful again. Right? They don't look at that like, oh, when I go there, he's going to try to run off me because I'm not going to be good enough. Their mindset is, those guys on the team right there, they're not good enough. I'm going to come in and I'll be good enough to play a huge role. And that's why Georgia's recruiting certainly hasn't tapered off any in the past month or so.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, it's what the coaches pitch them on. And like, I'm not saying they're lying, but like, a coach is never recruiting a kid they think is going to fail. But they're also not recruiting every kid. Like I know like Izzo was like, there was like a feature about Cassius Winston. It was like Cassius Winston, like it was like Izzo knew as when Cassius was a freshman in high school that Cassius could be like one of the best players in Michigan State history. And I'm like, sure. He also knew that for every other 5-star recruit he was recruiting. Like the idea that like he saw Cassius Winston as like something so much better than any other player he recruits is kind of absurd to me. I don't know.
I'm sure he thought the same thing about Tyler Ulis.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about this stuff all day, but
well, I mean, it is very, very relevant to the current status on Twitter, which I saw, where we had people saying like, it's been 4 years since Calipari's last Final Four. I guess one and done freshman, they can't get it done. Like, oh no. I saw a tweet right before we started, like, oh, Calipari has a good one title in 10 years. Kentucky fans should be pissed.
Yeah, no, I saw people saying like this feels like the end for Calipari. Like he's got to jump now. Like he's done what he can.
People live on different planets.
Like it's so stupid. I mean, if Calipari wants to go to UCLA and like get paid and live in LA and like recruit and like, get a fresh start, like more power to him. Or if he wants to coach in the NBA, because like that's like he's achieved everything he can in college, all the power to him. But like this idea of like he's not some kind of smashing success is unbelievable to me.
I mean, last year we had the kind of the rumbling starting with Tom Izzo, Michigan State's losing a lot in the second round. What's going on? Tom Izzo's lost his touch. Yada, yada. Oh, they just lose to Syracuse. They couldn't handle the zone. Tom Izzo can't coach against the zone. And now this year they're in the Final Four with a pretty decent chance to win a national title. It's just the variance of the tournament. As long as you keep getting high seeds and putting yourself out there, you're going to break through. It's just how it works.
And Michigan State certainly did break through today, beating Duke 68-67. Cassius Winston was just so good in this game. And now I think he was like 8 for 23 from the field, something like that. He wasn't super efficient shooting the ball, but he absolutely controlled that game. And he's the only guy on Michigan State who can get their own shot. Like full stop. No one else can really even create anything for others. Like Aaron Henry made some hockey assists and would get a pass from Cassius and go downhill and then make a pass or something like that. And McQuaid can do kind of similar stuff. But Cassius Winston, when you're watching the game, is the only dude who can go with the ball, make a play, and create something for someone else. And I mean, Duke at least has 2.5, 3, 4 guys who can do that. I mean, do you count Trey's can do that? You count Cam can do that? I mean, certainly Zion and RJ can. But if nothing else, Trey and Cam can do that. Or Zion and Cam, can do that. And so, I mean, I was floored for a team of Michigan State's caliber, just not having watched them in a bit, just against a team that was so athletic like Duke, how smothered everyone else looked, and it just didn't matter because Cassius was amazing, and Xavier Tillman did the work for him on the pick and roll, and obviously Goins with the big shot. But I thought that was a really, really impressive performance, as impressive a performance as I've seen by a point guard in this tournament by Cassius Winston.
Yeah, I mean they have shot makers, but they don't really have shot creators. Goins can hit an outside shot. McQuaid can. Henry can straight line drive a little bit off a closeout. Tillman's very good. He's in for a big year next year with the full reins there. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's very Cassius Winston centric, and that's kind of the benefit of having a experienced veteran point guard who's also one of the best players in the entire country. And I mean, for Michigan State to lose Langford, and then Arns was like their seventh man, losing both those guys and to be in this position is really something. Another team that has guys that are making, like we talked about with Auburn, that one game it's McCormick and Purifoy. The next game, Brown and Harper take over. Aaron Henry had his big game. Gabe Brown had a big game, despite really not being in a rotation all season. Tillman had his moments. So when you have different guys who can step up each game, that's really the recipe for a deep run there. And then we talked about a little bit with Kentucky, but guys like Kenny Goins and Matt McQuaid in their careers much maligned by the fan base from what I saw. Guys that were getting force-fed minutes and weren't great offensive producers, but those minutes paid off. And now when they're seniors, they're hitting shots, they're playing great defense, they're making all the little plays. And then Tillman last year, he was force-fed minutes on a team that had Jaren Jackson, Nick Ward, super deep front line. He gets force-fed minutes and ends up paying huge dividends because he sticks around, and now he's a one of the best six men in all of college basketball.
Yeah, it was so impressive to me to watch. Goings. I watched Michigan State a lot this year, and I thought Goings was kind of the perfect Zion matchup. Like I couldn't really think of someone who was going to be a better matchup. And obviously Zion had a really good game. He had 24 and 14. He was very productive. He got to the rim. He had a 3 or 2, which was. I couldn't believe, and we'll touch on this in a bit, that he didn't get more touches down the stretch. But for a guy like Kenny Goings, who for much of his career, just didn't seem like a guy who you could trust, so a former walk-on to now hitting a game-winning 3 against Duke to send a team to the Final Four. You can't say enough. He protects the rim. He does everything, all the little things. His team is really like a star, a good big, and then guys who do the rest. And that can once again work in college basketball over a team with 17 5-star recruits.
Yeah, so I saw in the preseason Michigan State fans saying if Kenny Goins is our starting power forward, like this season is gone horribly wrong. Like we're not in a good spot. But he was always a very good defensive player. He moves his feet exceptionally well for a. I guess he's a true power forward, but he's really a big man. And then this year he pulls a 3-pointer out of nowhere. Just added that to his game, and it's been a huge boon to the Michigan State lineup.
Yeah, the 3 was huge for him, just across the board, and huge for that offense to space the floor. And this loss though for Duke, it felt somewhat expected, as much as lose the number 1 overall seed going down feels expected. It really felt like over the last couple of games against UCF and then Virginia Tech that Duke, the flaws of Duke were getting exposed over and over again. And, they needed some luck to get by UCF, the ball rolling off the rim when it was hanging right there. And obviously signed a huge game, and RJ pushed off on that rebound. They don't call it. And, Duke goes 10 for 25 from 3, which is about as good as they're going to shoot it. And then, Virginia Tech, kind of a similar deal where it's a really close game down the stretch, down to the wire. And, Virginia Tech pretty much does everything they want to do defensively, especially. Zion gets 23 and 6, but he doesn't completely dominate you. Cam Reddish is out, so they're just out of shooting. RJ does his thing, numbers wise, but didn't, contribute a ton to winning. And Trey Jones goes out and hits 5 threes, even though Trey Jones has really struggled to shoot the ball all season long. So it felt like this was coming, where they needed one of those perfect performances once again to sneak by, and they just didn't get it. Trey Jones was fine. He wasn't terrific. Cassius cooked him on defense, which I was very surprised by. Delorier gave them really good minutes, I thought. Cam Reddish was obviously not himself in my mind. And I was just very frustrated by their late game execution. I thought Duke's insistence really on giving it to RJ Barrett and really insistent on settling for outside shots was maddening. I mean, Duke's best look all year long has been, and Jordan Sperber talks a lot about the continuity ball screen. It's kind of a rising offense. It's something that Duke runs a lot, and they run kind of looks out of it where it basically is just, how can we get Zion or RJ a step downhill? Because if they have a step downhill, it's over. And Zion and RJ, I don't understand why that's not your look every single time in a late game. It's just continuity ball screen. See if you can get Zion or RJ going to the basket, get fouled. They go away from that, and RJ misses a big shot late in the game, big free throw. Obviously, Zion just not getting a shot. I think you either run that ball screen or you post up Zion. I just don't understand how your late game shot time and time again is RJ going into ISO mode and really black hole mode.
Well, they were trying to get Zion in the post, repeatedly. They just couldn't throw the entry pass. I know Jones had one that's just like horrible, just like trying to lob it in there, like the defender wasn't even standing there. That got stolen. There was one, I don't remember who threw it, but they tried to throw it over the top, and either that went out of bounds and that got stolen. There's another one a little earlier in the second half where they tried to do the entry pass that gets knocked away. So I mean, it was really a pathetic showing of trying a fundamentally sound pass, trying to get him the ball, and then late game, you're exactly right. RJ Barrett took over. It looked like a little like they were trying to get Zion the ball, but he didn't really know where to go because they couldn't get it to him in the post earlier. And the thing with Jones, against Virginia Tech is they were leaving him so wide open, which is very stupid because like I touched on before, these are amazing basketball players, right? Like he's not a good shooter for like a high major basketball player, but he is a very good shooter, like for a person. So giving him that wide open of a look, like he's gonna knock that down. Like you have to guard him. Like you don't have to crowd him. Like you don't have to like close out super hard on him, but you do have to at least provide some resistance, or else he's gonna go 5 for 7 like he did. And I think Michigan State did a really good job of that. Where I don't think he got many open looks from three at all. I remember him shooting one that was not super contested, but contested enough to make him uncomfortable out there. So it you mentioned with the continuity ball screen, and you can also do that with a dribble handoff. A lot of teams run that dribble handoff like too far out. I remember seeing URI do that earlier, where they're like almost at midcourt, doing the dribble handoff, and the whole point of it is on the handoff, if you can turn the corner. Some people like to bring up a big to set a ball screen there too, which would be more of that continuity ball screen. But I mean, Zion is so explosive, and then even Barrett is so physical that you think you get him going left on a dribble handoff, and right on that catch, just a rip through, and they could get right to the rim in like one dribble, and maybe get fouled. But they went with the post ups, but they couldn't even get Zion the ball.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you just have to do something to get those guys looks. And I will say, just kind of quickly on the Trey point, like I understand your perspective of like you can't leave him open, but because Virginia Tech's kind of lack of size, I think it's really just the lesser of all the evils. You know what I mean? Where like they know they're going to get killed on the inside if they don't just absolutely pack it in and just hope for the best. Like obviously they were just daring him to shoot. And it could work like a Xavier Simpson type situation where Northwestern just didn't guard Xavier Simpson in the game at Welsh Ryan, and Simpson shot himself and really Michigan out of the game, where he was just he took a couple they dared him to take, he didn't make it, and it just basically scared him to the point where he needed one to fix it. Basically, he needed one more three to get out of the rut, but he kept taking them and didn't make them. So I think you kind of hope that happens with a guy like that, but I don't think his shot's quite as broken as Xavier Simpson is that of Trey Jones. So it's an interesting strategy. I think it was probably the right call overall, kind of for what they had. But yeah, I totally buy what you're saying of like you can't just dare them to do that.
And I mean, that could be a lot different for Virginia Tech if they had Chris Clark, who was a key piece, who was suspended for the whole season. He's super athletic, can play that small ball for you. He's someone who could have certainly defended either Zion or RJ or something, but they just didn't have the right personnel. But even with a super small lineup, playing guys like Ahmed Hill and Alexander Walker at those big men, at that power forward spot, they had a chance to win it. They drew up a horrible inbounds play that got Hill a wide open layup, according to Mike Francesa. But I mean, that's how close it was. A layup here, layup there, and maybe that was a Virginia Tech versus Michigan State game instead.
Crazy. That's how March is, though. Two more reasons, because we spent a lot of time on the first two that played on Sunday. Let's talk some Saturday action. Purdue's miracle run and Carson Edwards' miracle run ends against Virginia. Virginia gets back to the Final Four. Obviously, the storyline is incredible. And this was just an absurdly fun college basketball game. I mean, especially once it got to overtime, it was like, I just don't want this to end. I mean, I just didn't have the mental fortitude to watch it much longer as just a neutral fan. But, I mean, you had both teams with guys who were making shots and making plays. You had, just scrappiness, the energy of March. You had Carson Edwards put on a historic level performance. Klein hit a big shot. Kyle Guy was awesome for Virginia. So was Ty Jerome. Diakite continued his rise. And DeAndre Hunter didn't play a great game, quite frankly. Was good defensively. Didn't play great offensively. But I mean, this was just a really high level college basketball game, and really cool for Virginia to get over the hump. I
mean, that play at the end with Kihei Clark on the long rebound that he finds Diakite. I mean, that was so improbable. You missed the free throw there. I thought it was definitely a correct move to a foul up three. I know a lot of people talk about like the auto loss at like when I think Oregon did it to a UCLA and then they got the rebound, got the 3-pointer and won the game. But it's just so improbable. Like the ball goes all the way in the backcourt, and then kind of in that scramble they find Diakite, who has a little bit of a jumper, but he's certainly not like a stretch big man by any means. And he hit a nice mid-range shot at the buzzer to bring it to overtime. But I mean, Virginia obviously played great, and then Purdue's role players. I mean, they just fit together so well. It's like you had Vince Edwards, and now you have Aaron Wheeler kind of filling that role. He'll be like the next Vince Edwards. I mean, Swanigan to Trevion Williams. Obviously, these Wheeler and Williams aren't as good as their predecessors, but it's the same style, and you see that Painter's going for guys in the kind of the similar mold, like Sasha Stefanovic to Ryan Klein to Dakota Mathias. So it's certainly working for a Painter, and he looks to have Purdue in a lot better shape than any of us could have thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like absurdly improbable that Purdue, given they lost 4 high-level starters from last year. I mean, Haas, Thompson, Vince Edwards, Mathias are all excellent basketball players. When you graduate 4 seniors in this day and age, usually like 2 of them are useless. Those were 4 very impactful seniors. For them to be one crazy play away from going to the Final Four speaks to what Matt Painter's done. And obviously Carson Edwards was terrific, but he made Ryan Klein a tremendous player. Ryan Klein was excellent this season. Matt Harms was really good. I mean, Eifert gave them good minutes. Nojel Eastern got a lot better from last year. Aaron Wheeler is special, man, athletically. Like, he's going to be good. I am very excited about their future. Not to mention Trevion Williams, who I really like. I mean, he is a special passer for a big man. I don't think people have seen that enough. I mean, I'm very, very impressed. But, I mean, I thought that was just absolutely Coach of the Year level stuff from Matt Painter. Won't win it. Chris Beard or Kelvin Sampson will. But that was absurdly impressive. So big shout out to Purdue. I do think it's interesting how Braxton Key has just been like pretty much eliminated from the Virginia rotation. I mean, they obviously played them a little less because they don't want to go small against Purdue. But like Diakite, Salt, like they played so much like Diakite and Salt as their as like a two big lineup, and almost never did. They never did the key Hunter 3-4 look that I wanted to see preseason.
They did some guy Hunter 3-4, but it seems like he
Right,
hasn't really showed the point forward skills that he kind of flashed at Alabama. He's kind of, whenever I've seen him, there's been kind of like a rebounding, like kind of defensive glue guy, and Virginia needs to go big. I mean, Harms is obviously very big at 7-2, but they could also go with Trevion Williams and play those guys together. I mean, Eifert and Harms play together, so that was certainly a time to go big, especially when Diakite has been playing as well in the term as he has, and then Salt, big time intangible guy with the screens, had a good tip in, if I remember correctly. So that was certainly a look, and it benefits both those teams to be able to go big or smaller.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this game also kind of showed. I mean, Diakite's emergence was huge, and really helped them win this game. But I think it showed once again how important it is that Virginia has 3 high-level shot makers. And I've said this before, and I've said it so many times this season when people ask why this team is different. And it's really because you have 3 dudes who can get a shot, from pretty much anywhere when they don't have anything doing and get you a bucket. I mean, Ty Jerome had that absurd scoop layup early in overtime that I think summarized well. Hunter had a couple good drives. He had the one where he just lost it out of bounds in overtime. But, I mean, and as I said, he kind of struggled in this game. But kind of the point being is, like in the past, you had, Brogdon and Parentes, or you had Justin Anderson, but you didn't have enough guys where one guy could have a bad game in March in a game where, a guy like Carson Edwards lights you up and the defense doesn't hold them to 55. They didn't have the ability to win this game last year without DeAndre Hunter. They didn't have this ability in the years prior to that when they didn't have 3 high-level guys. But now that they do with Hunter, with Jerome, with Guy, and then, still great glue guys and Salt and Diakite and Kihei Clark and even Key, that's what makes them next level good. And that's why I think, they have a very, very good chance to cut down the nets next weekend.
Yeah, I think that they're probably the favorite at this point. I mean, Auburn with their hot shooting. I mean, if they cool off, I think in terms of what I would want to see, I think the best finals matchup would probably be Virginia and Michigan State. I think Auburn, Michigan State could be really compelling as well. We forgot to mention earlier, but Auburn prevails in the E.J. Montgomery Bowl. So I saw a lot of people bring up the Tony Barbie aspect, but I mean, I think E.J. Montgomery, former Auburn commit, now playing for Kentucky. I think that was the bigger story there.
Yes, of course. Just like Matt Stockman in Louisville, Minnesota, and really many other of the bowl games. Brad is your guy on Twitter if you're looking for bowl games of note in the NCAA tournament. Great matchup. I will say I'm not convinced that the favorite here, or at least the team I think like the most in this Final Four, is the team we haven't talked about yet. And that's Texas Tech, because I mean, to be quite honest with you, they looked better this past weekend than any team in the country looked this past weekend. Now, obviously, we'll see what they look like in a week because things look different in that time. But I mean, going back to that Buffalo game where they were just, quite frankly, dominant, had no issue with Northern Kentucky.
Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, they blew out Michigan. That was what I was saying this weekend, Michigan and Gonzaga. I mean, I thought Texas Tech looked really, really good. Like, we've known the defense would play in March, and they play just so tremendous, team defense and make things hard. But I mean, to beat Gonzaga, in a game like that where Perkins and Clark both played good basketball, where Hachimura had a good game. I mean, obviously, it was a very close game. It could could have obviously went very differently with one or two different shots, but I mean, it just feels like the team is so complete. With Mooney and Moretti being good enough shot makers, and Owens being such an impactful player when he's on the floor, in my mind, with his ability to protect the rim and big energy and finish, and obviously Jarrett Culver, who can score with the best of them and play at all three levels, defend. I mean, I think this team looked absurdly good over the two games this weekend, and it very much would not surprise me if they won this thing.
Yeah, I mean they're playing extremely well, and it's surprising because I think that they have clearly the least talented roster out of these four teams, and even among maybe like the top, I don't know, 10 or 12 teams from the regular season, despite having a future top 10 NBA draft pick. I mean, Moretti took a huge step this year, right? Mooney had a great game. He's not like a super offensive player, but he does he's kind of like a jack of all trades guard. And then you have Odiaze's not much of an offensive guy. He's kind of like a toughness rebounding guy. Owens is energy and athleticism. He's not much of an offensive threat either. Francis Ramirez is kind of like a just like a average run of the mill spot up shooter. Kyler Edwards is a good freshman, but this team is the epitome of the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, they're so good. And they're a fun team to watch play defense. I mean, I don't say that often, but I mean, I think they're just super well schooled and do everything right all the time. And Chris Beard's a tremendous coach. But in that Gonzaga game, I didn't see a ton of it because I was kind of getting off flights and things of that nature. But I just, I was just so impressed, how composed they were down the stretch. I mean, everyone says this team is experienced, but are they? Like, Tariq Owens hasn't played deep into March. Matt Mooney hasn't played deep into March. How much March basketball has Davide Moretti played? This is not a team that has been there before, and Chris Beard hasn't been there before, but they looked the part and quite frankly, just looked in control at all times. And I think I was just so impressed by Chris Beard, and he'll certainly have everyone calling this offseason. I mean, at this point, he has to be kind of considered a top 10 coach, right?
Yeah, I mean, they make the Elite Eight last year, but they lose. It was 5 of their top 7. I mean, that the team last year was so Keenan Evans dependent, right? He's gone. Zaire Smith, surprise one and done. That can crush a program. The surprise early entry. They lose, Justin Gray and Stevenson, some other their veteran role guys, and I think I would still call this an experienced team, even though there isn't a March experience. But they are older guys, and it's just the cohesion. Because Culver is like a really kind of versatile, skilled scorer, right? But he's not like Carson Edwards out there, right? Like he's not dominating the ball. Guys like Moretti and Mooney are making plays with, and Kyler Edwards too, with the ball in their hands. He hit some really big shots, but he's not the same level of college scorer as a lot of those undersized guards.
Right. Yeah, I would tend to agree. But I mean, I think the experience point is kind of weird. It's how much can you quantify the experience? I don't think you can compare the experience that Matt McQuaid has had in March versus the experience that Tariq Owens has had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the experience that Owens and Mooney had is greater than the experience of insert a random sophomore, who either played 10 minutes a game last year off the bench in the Sweet 16, or this is their first tournament.
Yeah.
Compare the experience of Mooney and Owens versus a Victor Bailey on Oregon, or even a Corey Kispert on Gonzaga.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, just kind of looking at the Gonzaga game in particular, another crazy ending. The technical for Josh Perkins. Those were the scenes of March. You know what I mean? You don't want a game to be decided by a technical. Like that's never what we want as fans. But like it, like it sounds very weird to say. Like part of me enjoying March is watching people cry, but like the emotion of college basketball to me in like the saddest moments, and I'll always remember just because I was there. The 2017 MAC tournament, watching Monmouth. These Monmouth's entire team just go down the tunnel sobbing, and a player literally like screaming because he couldn't believe that like his college career is over. And the same thing happened the next night with Siena losing. Like just like those types of scenes of like a guy sitting in his locker, absolutely bawling because his time at Gonzaga is over and he feels like he cost them the NCAA tournament because he, reached in on a loose ball, but like realistically is not going to happen. Like did not decide this game. Like Texas Tech probably makes 2 free throws and that game's over not over, but like close anyway. You know what I mean? Like that like raw emotion is just what makes it so much more special than I think any other sport is.
I mean, yeah, I agree with the emotion, but I mean, Perkins literally like reached over and smacked Mooney's hand to the point where Mooney lost the ball. So I mean that really had to be called. And it seems like Perkins,
I'm not saying it's called.
Yeah, but like Perkins as a player, just in general, it seems like he is kind of like his mind goes blank sometimes. Like that was a moment where normally you would think like, all right, I'm gonna be active with my hands, but I'm gonna be very cognizant of not reaching over. But like he kind of saw the ball and just like swiped at it, and I think he plays a lot that way too. Like there was one play where he was like dribbling in traffic and they just like knocked it away. It's like he like loses his focus sometimes, especially with the turnovers.
I will say in the obviously the technical, the one thing I will say on that is like if you see the ball fake and you're guarding the ball, your instinct is to like reach out and try to like force the angle so you can tip it and hopefully make the pass either go really low and bounce off another guy or at least make them redo the inbound. Like that's his job. He just jumped over a little too far. But no, it is somewhat emblematic of a career of Josh Perkins. You know what I mean? Like so good, but yet that one mistake that kind of haunts you from being you're really an all-time great college player. Because I mean, in terms of the numbers he's going to finish his Gonzaga career with, like you're talking about a guy who was a part of a team that went to a national championship. They're a part of a team that was pretty much elite every single year he played college basketball. Is that correct? I mean, they were really good every year he played college basketball. Had multiple.
I think that they had 1 year where they were like a bubble team.
The Wiltshire team. The Wiltshire Sabonis team that was like 28-8. That was like somewhat of a ball team. They still went to Sweet 16 though. That had like
that was 15-16. So that would have been his redshirt freshman season.
That would be his redshirt freshman year. He averaged 10, 4, and 3. That was like him, like Wiltshire Sabonis, Eric McClellan, Silas Melson, Brian Alberts was a freshman on that team. But I mean, like Josh Perkins will have went through his career, won well over 100 college basketball games. Scored over 1,500 points and over 700 assists. Like just like an uber winner who made incredible plays, shot the lights out really his entire career. Shot 39% on a career, making over 253s. Like that's like absurd college statistics on a great team for 4 years. But there was always something missing, and I think that play right there is kind of emblematic of that something missing, kind of there mentally. And obviously, he was a lot better this year after being kind of much maligned, and took care of the ball a lot better. But that was certainly a tough way to end a college career.
Yeah, because he had shot selection problems earlier in his career. I thought he cleaned that up pretty well this year. The thing that always surprised me with Perkins though is most of the things most of the takes or kind of the statements around Perkins I've seen is kind of the debate: is he good or is he not? But I don't think enough people remember. I mean, this isn't like super basketball related, but I mean, he was like the first McDonald's All-American. I think that few got. He was certainly a McDonald's All-American. And then when he was a freshman, he missed the season because he got kicked in the face. I don't know if you remember that. It was like early in the season, his freshman year, and he shot faked, and the defender, jumped on the fake, but like to the side of him, and just kicked him square in the face. It was one of the most brutal injuries I saw.
I do not remember the injury now.
And it was a whole thing where like he like, couldn't eat, right, because he had a broken jaw, and like his dad was going to go on the diet with him too and stuff. But I mean, that was one of the crazier injuries, getting kicked in the face on a shot fake.
That is a great memory. I had forgotten that. But yeah.
Do you remember it now or no?
What was that?
Do you remember it now that I jog your memory, or I still know?
I remember him being hurt. I just don't remember him getting kicked in the face.
Imagine if I made this up. I'm like now I'm worried that this isn't true.
Definitely with a broken jaw. So let me see what let's see if we, oh yes, I just watched the YouTube video. He did in fact get kicked in the face. That is
there we go.
Okay. You were absolutely right. It was at MSG. The guy.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if it was at Maui or what, but yeah.
It was an absolutely wild closeout. It was like a preseason NIT thing, and it was just this was one of the most wild closeouts you'll ever watch. Well, the thing is, as I'm watching it real time, just rewatched it like a third time. So basically, like he shot fakes in the corner, and then drives more baseline, and so the guy who's making the closeout like adjusts in midair to try to get over more and like get in front and like draw the block basically while he's still in the air. Like he's just gonna like get in the way, but like goes just too far in the air and just kicks Josh Perkins right in the face.
Which team are they playing?
Georgia.
Georgia, okay.
Yes, they're playing the Bulldogs. People in the YouTube comments wanted a technical foul for this.
I mean,
but no call.
Certainly excessive contact. I think that's the definition of a flagrant one. But.
It would definitely be a flagrant one, but it wasn't on purpose. So
yeah.
God, that's a crazy injury. I had completely forgot he just got kicked in the face. Anyway, if you wanted play-by-play of Josh Perkins getting kicked in the face, you've come to the right place on this podcast. But I think that does get us through the four regions. Do you want to pick the final four right now?
Sure.
All right, let's do the thing. So that's Saturday night, April the 6th. We've got Auburn and Virginia, the first game in the 6 Eastern block, and then the 9 Eastern block, and Tech versus Michigan State. So the good thing is it's kind of spread out, where if we had like Michigan State, Virginia, and Auburn, Texas Tech, we would have gotten it would have been pretty bad. Wait, is that? Yeah, that's right. It would have been pretty bad. Like Auburn, Texas Tech would have gotten like no ratings. You know what I mean? Like there's no juice just because neither of them are powers. But I think getting it spread out like that is nice. I think Auburn, Virginia. I'll let you start, Brad. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Virginia here. I may end up rooting for Auburn, but this whole idea that like Virginia's style can't win in March, or like Tony Bennett can't win the big game. It's just so silly because people say the same thing about Mark Few until he did it, about John Calipari, about Jay Wright, and I think Virginia has been so good for so long, for like the past 4 or 5 years, that I think the natural variance comes in, and this is where they break through. In terms of like basketball strategy, as like a reason to why that they would win. I think that their defense could slow down like a Harper and Brown. I know that the pack line is more containing dribble penetration, right, as opposed to jump shots. And Auburn has a lot of shooters, but they do also need guys to penetrate and move the defense. And then on Virginia's side, I really like how Giacchite is playing. Obviously, Guy and Jerome leading the way. So I think they're due, and I think that they have also legitimate basketball kind of strategic matchup advantages.
I was kind of debating this because the pack line should contain some of the drives by Harper, or at least we'll make those drives contested at the rim a little more. Although he's such a good finisher. But Auburn, the thing is, if Auburn hits 15 threes, they're winning this game. And we know Auburn can do that. Like, there's a very clear path for Auburn to win this game, and that's they hit 15 threes. The question is, can they win if they hit 8 or 7? And they showed today they could beat Kentucky. I don't know if they can beat Virginia if they hit 7 or 8 threes. I'm gonna kind of reluctantly kind of roll with Virginia again. I mean, I've come with them so far, Brad. Last year I said Virginia would be a top 10 team. No one said they'd be top 25. They're the best team in the country, and they blow it against UMBC. I stay on the bandwagon. They're once again a top seed. I stay on the bandwagon even though they're saying they don't win the NCAA tournament. They're in the Final Four. I got to ride with my guys. Shout out the Cavs. They're winning this one.
I had Virginia number 2 in the preseason once Braxton Key got his waiver. But I certainly didn't foresee Key making such a small impact, and Kihei Clark, the freshman, like top 250 ranked recruit, former California Irvine signee.
Davis. Yeah, he was a UC Davis.
Oh, California Davis.
He was a UC Davis commit, and then
he won Peach Jam MVP, right, and opened it up.
Yeah, he was great for Oakland Soldiers, and then got his release and looked at a bunch of places and went to UVA.
Kind of a side note on Kihei Clark too. I've seen a lot of people saying like, "Oh, take your 5-star recruits, give me a winner like Kihei Clark." If you had 5 Kihei Clarks on the court, you'd win like 5 games, right? He's great next to 5-star or high 4-star recruits like Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter, who were all top 50 recruits. Hunter might have been like top 60, right? But he's great as a supplemental piece, right? Like Jordan Goldwire is really solid next to Zion and RJ Barrett, but giving them more of a role, the carriage turns back into a pumpkin.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like Kihei Clark would be a stud if you put him on like George Washington, Like if you put him in A10, like you'd be like Kihei Clark is great. Just like if you put Jordan Goldwire at where was he going to go? Mercer? Wasn't that the thing? Like Jordan Goldwire? Eastern Kentucky. Yeah, like Siena recruited him, Eastern Kentucky, Mercer, schools like that. Like if you put Jordan Goldwire on Eastern Kentucky right now, he'd be really good. Like he'd be an all-conference player. But I mean, he wouldn't like you can't have 5 Jordan Goldwires or like Jordan Goldwire equivalents and not be like Washington State level bad.
Yeah, like you could do that at Mercer, right? You can do that at Rutgers.
I mean, that's pretty much what Rutgers has, right? I mean, I guess they like Corey and Gio were like fine, but I mean, Rutgers is basically like winners like Kihei Clark with a coach who just scraps like Peichel, and like they're gradually upping their talent level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, that's still not a competitive NCAA tournament team. Your point fully stands. But yeah, let's do the other game. Texas Tech, Michigan State, game number 2. I'm gonna roll with Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is, playing so well defensively. I think their defense will cause problems for Cassius Winston. They can protect the rim and really make things difficult. Jarrett Culver can maybe put some length on him. I mean, Cassius will get his, but I think Texas Tech finds a way to win this game, which would set up one of the lowest scoring national championship games of all time.
Yeah, I think that you sold me on Texas Tech between how well they're playing and then the fact that Michigan State really only has one creator, especially creator off the dribble, and such a good defense like Texas Tech, who can throw length on Cassius Winston, that's going to be trouble for Michigan State's offense.
Now, do you want to pick the national championship game, or are we going to record a podcast pre-national title game?
Oh yeah, I mean we're going to do one next Sunday, right?
Well, we could wait until Monday and then just record after the national title game.
I mean, we could honestly now have a podcast every day because we don't need to watch basketball anymore.
Of course. Why don't we – do we want to pick it now or do we want to wait?
Why don't we wait? We'll wait.
Why don't we wait? Okay.
Also, if we have a Sunday podcast, I remember Sunday last year is when I released my top 25 for the next year.
Yes.
And I think I was the first one to get it out. So, I mean, maybe we could talk on that a little bit too. Because if we do a Sunday, right, we'll be talking Final Four. You can only do so much previewing, right? I mean, it's a very speculative and kind of a repetitive. And then maybe we can touch on a little bit of a look ahead next year, where hopefully better times for our respective fan base.
Oh, certainly hope so. I mean, Northwestern can only go up. Let's just put it that way.
Providence is a point guard now too. So
if
they're
funny, baby,
if they're still bad next year, then I'm going to be very, very sad.
Hey, Sienna's winning the MAC. That's all I'll say. First year coach. Shout out to Coach Massarello is how I've been told it's pronounced. They're gonna have it rolling because they got Jalen Pickett back, who's as good a mid-major player as there is, and I don't know if he's going to do the Ja thing and put up 25-5 and 25-8 and 10 or whatever Ja put up, but he's going to be special next year, and hopefully he can lead Siena back to new heights. So, thanks for listening to the pod, everybody. It was a lot of fun. We'll have something next week of some kind, whether that's pre the national championship game or post the national championship game, and obviously enjoy your final little bit of basketball, because then we have to be stuck without it for 7 months, and we'll have plenty of transfer talk, Brad. I know that. We'll talk transfers, we'll talk coaching change. It's still a busy time of year, but it's coming to a close, which always does leave kind of that bitter taste in your mouth, even though you're so a bittersweet taste, even though you're so excited for these final couple of huge games. So thanks for listening. As always, please subscribe to the podcast. Please rate and review it wherever you record or wherever you listen to the podcast. We do appreciate it. It helps us get more listens, helps other people find our show. But yeah, thanks for listening, and have a great night.